There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with another page 112 book haul tag. I'm not going to say anything about it, and if you're new, please check out the show notes. But first of all, I have an exciting audio-visual equipment announcement. Thanks to Steve Partridge, who mentioned it on one of his videos. I finally got one. It's a selfie light! So look at the difference it makes. There it's on. And now I'm going to clip it to my iPad like that. Makes quite a difference, eh? So that's now, and that's with it gone. Gives quite a bit of extra light. We'll see how it goes. It was $10 or something. So, these are books that I have recently acquired. In fact, one of them is not a physical book that I've bought, because I made a decision today. Because some of the books that I'm buying on a regular basis now, I'm going to be collecting all of Muriel Spark's books. So a Muriel Spark novel has featured itself in every one of my book haul videos of late, and it always wins the page 112 contest because Muriel Spark. I'm not going to use Muriel Spark for the page 112 tags anymore because she's a goddess and she always wins. It's not fair to all these poor other writers. So I'm just going to show you the other Muriel Spark that's come into my collection, Memento Mori. This is her third novel. 1, 2, 3. This is the reissued editions coming from, what's the name of the publisher? Polygon Press in Scotland. They're republishing all 22 of her novels, and this is number 3. But I'm not going to be reading from it for this tag. So that was going to be the third book of the batch, but I've decided no. So instead I've added one that I've recently bookmarked and saved to my personal library with my Scribd membership. So this is an ebook, and that's book number 1. Her hands are held close together, turned slightly outward and upward, as if holding something, an imaginary baby, perhaps. If the pregnancy continues, she says, we'd need to think about booking you in with the midwife and a first scan around now, and possible screening. But I'm not going to push you. You're on our system, which is good. There's a knock on the door, and a uniformed nurse enters the room, carrying sterile swabs. They move into the curtained section. Rachel strips below the waist and lies down on the paper-covered table. The lamp is repositioned. The speculum inserted. Swabs taken. It is a brief, inoffensive examination. The nurse hands her tissues and leaves. She redresses. Dr. Dunning is typing up notes on the computer. Rachel sits and waits for her to finish. I'll get those sent off, she says. The results will take about a week. But why don't I call you in a few days, if that's convenient? Where do you work? Can I reach you there? The Annerdale estate, and yes. Lovely. I'm managing the reintroduction project. Oh, the wolves! I read something in the Gazette about that. It's all going ahead then? It is. Will it be open to the public? My kids would love to go. Possibly once they're settled, though it'll be more a program than a park. Okay, so what did you think of that? I didn't know anything about this book when I read the page 112 the first 2 times, and just before I turned the camera on, I did do a little research. So I'll try to share my reaction not knowing much about the book. And that was that I was really intrigued by this. The writing was fine, but nothing special, right? There's no sentence or phrase that jumps out, but it's workmanlike prose. The scene is well described. But I'm just so curious. So this woman is pregnant and she's working on something called the Reintroduction Project that seems to be involved in wolves. Now that I've gone and done a little bit more research, I know exactly what it's all about. But when I read it the first time, I was like, what is that? And it's more a program than a park. So reintroducing wolves to a particular area, that's her job on an estate, and she's pregnant, or why does the doctor say if the pregnancy continues? I'm very curious about that. And I also don't understand why the doctor says we need to think about a first scan around now. What does that mean, around now? I can't understand in the context, but I'm curious about that. And it seems like there's some hesitation or some sense of uncertainty about whether this woman is going to continue seeing this doctor, whether or not she's pregnant. I don't know what all that's about, but I'm curious. So yeah, I'm really intrigued by this, and especially about the Wolf Reintroduction Project. So I have a good feeling about book number 1. Book number 2. For you, said Jamila, placing a plastic container on the table. She touched her hair to check it. Yes, it was magnificent. There would be grilled meat in the container, or a salad of roasted aubergines, or a white bean stew. Her mother's way of repaying a good turn. Celeste received these gifts with gratitude, but rarely with enthusiasm, for Madame Kateb was an indifferent cook. The dishes she sent up were bland or oversalted, greasy or cooked to mush. They suggested approximations of a folk cuisine, something remembered but remote. Jamila placed her phone on the table. It was switched off at Celeste's insistence, but had to be kept within sight. At night, Jamila slept with it under her pillow. Vasanti might text her at any time. A texto is showing she loved me. Celeste said automatically, text, not texto. Since meeting Sabine, Celeste too couldn't stop checking her phone. The temptation was overwhelming, the opportunity for distraction, the hope of reward. Sabine often sent only one word, toi. She loved me. Celeste's heart would stutter like an egg boiling in a pan. Celeste and Pippa arranged to meet at the Musée de la Vie Romantique. It was a wayward sort of Sunday with a trembly blue sky. Pippa said that when she arrived in France, it had been so cold that the city was deserted after dark. I went out looking for somewhere to eat on my first night, and the only thing I could see, up and down the street, was parked cars. I thought, here I am in Paris. It's a garage. Well, I absolutely love the writing. I have no idea what's going on. There's a group of all women, it seems. I don't know if Sabine is a man or a woman, but otherwise the people in this scene are all women, and they don't appear to know each other really well. Like, it almost seems like they're all friends. Anyway, I just thought the writing, it sings, this is Sean prose. They suggested approximations of a folk cuisine, something remembered but remote, and especially Celeste's heart would stutter like an egg boiling in a pan. Oh my God, I'm in love with this writing. So, I don't know what's going on here. I'm very curious. Who are these people to each other? Is Jamila a girl and Celeste an adult? Is it like a homestay or foster parent, or are they just friends? And there's a bit of humor about Paris being a garage. I really like this. Lots of second language stuff. So could it be a homestay? This one really grabs me. And book number 3. It was a head that invited violence. Now he was weeping in earnest, with bubbles of mucus blooming from his nostrils, and no sooner had the right nostril's bubble exploded than another took shape in the left. I explained we were in no position to care for children, that our way was a swift and dangerous one, a speech likely made for nothing, the boy being so engrossed with his own sadness, I do not think he heard my words. At last, fearful I might hurt him if he did not cease his mewling, I walked the boy across the stream to the prospector's camp and pulled the tobacco pouch from my saddlebag. Showing him the gold, I told him, "This will get you back to your home, and your girl, if you can avoid having your skull knocked from your shoulders. There is horse meat in that shelter. I suggest you feed yourself and Lucky Paul and rest for the night. At first light, I want you to backtrack, just the same way you came." I handed him the pouch, and he stood there staring at it in his palm. Charlie had seen the transaction out of the corner of his eye, and he moved to stand beside us. "What are you doing?" he asked me. "You are giving me this?" said the boy. "What do you think you're doing?" Charlie asked. I told the boy, "Return over the pass and keep to the north. When you arrive in Jacksonville, find the sheriff there and explain your situation. If you think him trustworthy, ask him to exchange your dust for hard cash." "Ho-ho!" said the boy, bouncing the pouch in his hand. "I am against this," Charlie said. "You are throwing that money away." I said, "That was money pulled from the ground when neither one of us needs it." Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. What a set piece. I call that a lucky page 112. It reads just like almost a full scene, except what an enigmatic first sentence. It was a head that invited violence. I'm dying to go to page 111 to find out what that's all about, but I didn't. So this kid has been beaten up or injured or something. He's in a bad way with nostrils bubbling blood. And the man, who's the narrator, is being very kind and giving, and this is some kind of a Western, maybe 19th century gold rush, something setting, and he's giving this kid some gold and for telling him to kind of bugger off, get out of danger. And whoever Charlie is not happy about it. I just think it's stunning. The writing is really strong. It's vivid. I was pulled right in. This doesn't really sound like a Sean story particularly, but it doesn't matter. I was deeply intrigued by it, and I think most of you were too. But you're going to tell me that in the comment section. Like the narrator, the boy, and Charlie are all really vivid to me just from that one page. I think that's really a very, very fine piece of writing. All right, so what would be your first pick, second pick, third pick? Do you have any guesses about how I would rank these books? Of all the page 112 tags I've done, this one is probably the one where the three are so close together. But yet it's still obvious to me which one's number 1, number 2, number 3. But we're talking single-digit percentile differences between them. So, my first pick is book number 2, about all those women talking about food in Paris and talking about their smartphones. Because of the lovely writing. That is the kind of writing that I absolutely love. So even though I can't really get a sense of what the story's about, that's my first pick. But just a hair's breadth shorter is book number 3. The only reason it's not number 1 is, well, I love the writing in book number 2. But the only reason that book number 3 is not my first pick is it sounds like kind of a macho story that maybe isn't going to be so much mine. I like the company of women, but I was totally sucked into book number 3, so it's my second pick. And again, maybe 5% down among my choices would be book number 1 about the pregnant wolf lady. The writing didn't grab me or disappoint me, but the story sounded really, really interesting. So I am stoked to try all of these, but I would probably read them in that order. So now, using the order that I picked them, let me show you the books and tell you a bit about them. My first choice, which was book number 2, is The Life to Come by Michelle de Kretser. Michelle de Kretser is a Sri Lankan Australian writer, and I found out about this book on Kendra Winchester's channel. She has a full review, which I will link in the show notes, and her review totally sold me on this. And this is a 2017, I think this is a 2018 edition, but the novel came out in 2017 from Australia. Got a gorgeous cover. And my second pick, which was book number 3, is The Sisters Brothers by Patrick DeWitt. This one came out a few years ago. This is a 2011 novel, and DeWitt is a Canadian-American writer. He was born in Canada but lives in Oregon. I found out about him from a Canadian book podcast a couple of years ago. He's a really weird guy, and his stories are really weird. And this is another one of my, this I picked up at the used bookstore in Kichijoji here in Tokyo for $3. Brand new hardcover. I don't think it's been read at all. So, The Sisters Brothers. Obviously the family name of these brothers is Sisters, so The Sisters Brothers, but it's a very curious title, hey? And my third pick, which was book number 1, is The Wolf Border by Sarah Hall. And I've been hearing about Sarah Hall forever. I believe Mercedes recently has been raving about her. I don't remember if she talked about this novel, but I know she had tried out one of Sarah Hall's novels, and I've been hearing about her for a couple of years. And this one is on Scribd, 2015 novel. So, a little bit more about them. The De Kretzer one is really hard to describe, so go check out Kendra's review. She does a pretty good job of trying to explain what it's about, but what really hooked me from her review was she said, if you like Virginia Woolf, you will love the writing style here, and I do, so I hope I will. But it's about a group of women, and you could kind of read it as a collection of linked short stories. Kendra said one of the most enigmatic things about it is that the main character is kind of absent from the story. She's often talked about, but she's not really present in the way that you would expect a main character to be present, or maybe she's not present at all. All kinds of things going on here, but if you like slow-moving, meditative stories that aren't plot-driven so much as character-driven and prose-driven, this is a novel for you. If it's Wolfian, I'm here for that, so I can't wait to read this. The sisters' brothers are henchmen for some powerful cowboy dude, and he sends them out to kill somebody, and they have to find him, and they go on this journey across America, or across some part of America, to track him down. And one of them is cold-blooded and the other one's not, and he's having second thoughts about the line of work they're in from a moral perspective, and the story goes from there. It's a comedic western. And Wolf Hall, not Wolf Hall, The Wolf Border is about a zoologist, a British zoologist. She was working in America, I believe it was Idaho, on wolf reintroduction projects, and she gets called back to the UK for an interview by some earl or some nobleman, set in present day obviously, who wants to reintroduce wolves to northern England. And she's reluctant to uproot herself, but the nobleman or the earl or whatever he is, he lives near where her elderly mother lives, where the protagonist herself grew up. So she takes the job, and we can sort of see that she does. So that sounds pretty interesting too. So I'm going to be very curious to hear what your picks would be. Oh, one last thing. I have one other book by Patrick DeWitt, Under Major Domo Minor. I always thought The Sisters Brothers was DeWitt's first book, and this was his second, but that's not true. I found out today, it's on the dust jacket, that his first book is called Ablutions, Notes for a Novel. So this is his second, and this is his third, so if I enjoy this, I will move on to this one. That's my page 112 tag for this week. I'm going to be accumulating more books on a more regular basis now that I'm not so broke anymore, so these book haul page 112 tags will start coming more regularly probably. It seems like many of you are enjoying them, so I guess if I get a bunch of dislikes or not as many page views, I will know that it's not working, but in the meantime I'm having fun with it, so thanks for watching.